The government that's in power in Turkey was democratically elected about 10 years ago, and in all the elections after that they've increased their votes, so they have support from a big part of the population, but based on that support, their attitude has been turning towards more and more disregard for anything that the opposition has to say, anything that the public has to say. And just in the last couple months, some laws that they have passed and some little things that happened here and there in different places in Turkey have really created this tension and the atmosphere where people eventually, in the end, just couldn't take it anymore, because the censorship on the media, the restrictions on freedom of expression, isolated instances of police brutality becoming this systematic outburst of police brutality. This just got to a point where people just couldn't take it anymore, and that's what's creating the tension right now all over the country. This particular protest movement started as a result of a peaceful protest at a park in Istanbul, which the government wanted to demolish and replace with a shopping mall. Istanbul is an increasingly urbanized city. There's already very little green space that's accessible to the public. So that was just one of the last remaining green refuges in the city, and when police intervened to the protesters, who were basically setting up tents and just occupying the park peacefully, completely peacefully, the police raided the park at dawn a few days ago before these protests escalated. They used tear gas, water cannons, lots of people were injured. So this just created a chain reaction all over the country, and more people felt the need to go out and protest, and just felt that this is just wrong, and this has just gone too far. And the attitude of the government, which is assuming that they can do whatever they want just because they have majority, this just needs to change right now. So that's why people from all ages, from all political backgrounds, they're just leaving their differences aside and getting together on the basic principles of human rights, democracy, and being able to speak out for what you believe in. There's a ton of very disturbing material online, images and videos of mainly what's most disturbing is the police brutality. So police, for example, shooting gas canisters, aiming directly to hit people, and most of the time to hit people above the chest, which could be fatal injuries, and which resulted in at least one death so far. And police beating people on the ground with their sticks, or pepper spraying just people walking by on the street, or intervention vehicles using their water cannons on people waiting at a bus stop. These are just images and videos posted online, and these are trying to be dismissed as provocations, but who's provoking is really clear. It's just this excessive use of force by the police is only making things worse, and it's really worrying that the government is still not taking any responsibility or not taking any steps back. If you get arrested, you get dragged all the way to the vehicle, and on your way you get insulted, beaten up by everyone, all the police officers that you see on your way. This is just awful. Most of my friends are on the streets day and night. They're subject to tear gas, pepper sprays, water cannons, and violent attacks by the police. Just this morning, the Medical Association in Turkey issued a statement saying close to 2,000 people are injured and at least one person is dead. And a friend of mine, when I was talking to him, was saying the sister of a friend of his is in the hospital in critical condition after being hit in the head with one of those gas canisters. And I'm worried for my friends and family, but I'm also hopeful for the country. I'm worried for everybody out there who's dealing with these violent attacks. But this also triggered a light of hope, because it's the first time in many years that people all across the board are rising up. So hopefully things will start to change for the better. Lots of cities in Europe, lots of cities in the United States, and all major cities in Canada. Mainly Turks living abroad in those cities, and also their friends, and also anyone who's concerned about what's going on, really got together, especially over the weekend, to show their support. We had a rally here in Ottawa on Parliament Hill on Sunday, and as long as the events are going on in Turkey, I'm sure there will be more supportive protests all over the world. Because right now what we are doing, especially from abroad, is trying to get more people to be aware of what's going on, and get people to write to their MPs, follow news outlets, and ask for news on these events. Even Amnesty International issued a call for action, especially for people to write, also to write to Turkish embassies in their countries, to pressure them to speak out and pressure the government to put an end to this violence, because it's just the government is just attacking its own people, and it just has to stop. What started this whole thing was the demolition of that park, and that symbolizes how the government all over the country has been taking over public space just for the sake of making more money. So selling out public space, public land for shopping malls, hotels, etc. So this needs to stop, and people need to be given back their public space. They need their parks, they need their public space. So that's basically point one. Point two, obviously as important as point one, is ending police violence, which has now become so systematical and so organized that you see wherever you look there's a peaceful protest, and the police, without warning, without any attempt at peacefully intervening, they go in right off the bat with tear gas and water cannons. That needs to stop. There's a ton of reports of torture and beatings by the police after people are detained. All these allegations need to be investigated, and the responsible parties should pay for what they're doing. So the government needs to take action to stop the violence and to bring the people who are responsible to justice. An entire medical association condemning these events, calling for an end to these events. You see an entire bar association condemning and calling an end for these events, and you see then the government still trying to dismiss the protests as some extremist groups. So spread the word to everyone. Write to your MPs, write to the Turkish ambassadors in your countries, write to the Turkish ambassador here in Ottawa. Express your concerns, and just get as many people as possible to be aware of the situation, to be aware of the police brutality going on in Turkey and how the government is dismissing these events. And just spread the word, write to media outlets, demand news on these subjects. That's it. Just raise awareness and raise the public opinion, because eventually the government and the authorities have to realize that they cannot just suppress all dissident voices, and they cannot just suppress international public opinion. So we're just trying to raise awareness and create some sort of pressure. So in all the protests, you hear people chanting, and people from all ages, all political backgrounds, or different religious beliefs. They put their differences aside and they get together to chant slogans against the government. They're calling the government to resign. They're calling the police to leave them alone. They're calling for peace. They're calling every single city in Turkey to resist. So there's this nationwide solidarity and resistance, and they're calling for peace basically, and they want their liberties, they want their freedoms, they want to live in a country where you don't have to be scared of the police, and you don't have to be scared of the government, because that's not democracy. That's not how the modern world works. And even though the government still tries to sell itself as a democratic government that was democratically elected and that believes in the principles of democracy. You can see, based on what's going on the streets, that people do not feel safe, people do not feel free, and they demand their freedom back. Ethnic groups, religious groups, even sports fans, different groups in Turkey. There was, before these protests, there was a lot of tension between these groups, fights breaking out, social tension. But one thing you see in these protests that's really inspiring, and that really gives you hope that things are going to change for the better, is all of these groups getting together and just posting messages on social media that go viral that say, now we understand why they want to keep us separated, because this is what we can do when we unite. And you see photos of all those sports fans, different groups of sports fans getting together, different ethnic groups, different religious groups, ideological groups who have violently fought and clashed in the past, getting together just on the basis of human rights and freedom of expression, and just uniting for this common cause. So that's really inspiring. So one other good thing that came out of these protests, at least that has to do with that original park where it all started with the project to build a shopping mall, is most of the major retailers in Turkey issued messages saying that they don't want to be part of that shopping mall because it has created such an outrage, and these people are eventually their clients potentially, so they don't want to be at odds with this, and it's created such an outrage that there's no point in pushing this further, which is the message that the government needs to get, but not yet. Well, especially in that original protest where people were occupying the park, what they were doing is playing music, reading books in the park, and there's photos of people reading after the police showed up, reading books to police, and those are such symbolic images, because you see this peaceful protester reading a book, and then on the other side you see a police officer with a shield, a big gun, and a helmet. It just shows you how unbalanced the whole situation is. There's also photos of people, even during those violent clashes, people with guitars singing a song. Again, when people get together, they chant, they sing popular songs, they dance. So it's a matter of sharing this basic demand for freedom of expression and basic liberties. And one thing that people are turning into is singing, music, reading, poetry. So yeah, the artistic side of it is really inspiring too. Just the posters that people come up with, the slogans that people come up with, just show you how creative and potentially very productive this nationwide force, this nationwide movement is. Yeah. The fact that all the people in Turkey are coming together in the name of human rights, in the name of freedom of expression and basic democratic principles, and these are values that are universal. These are values that matter to any human being on any country on this planet. So it doesn't have to do with country, with language, with religion, with ethnicity, with nationality, whatever. It's just it has to do with universal human rights. So it concerns anyone who cares slightly about human rights. And there's a short saying, I can't remember from who right now, but it goes like, they came for the religious, I didn't say anything because I wasn't religious. They came for the leftists, I didn't say anything because I wasn't a leftist, and so on. This is just how it goes. Like, if you don't stand up for basic rights, no matter what you represent, it concerns you, and it can eventually get you. So it's important to defend that basic understanding of universal human rights.